The international airport buzzed like a chaotic symphony. Wheels rolling across polished tiles, names being called urgently over the loudspeakers, and hundreds of hurried footsteps racing against time. Amid the crowd, Emma Rivera, 22, walked briskly toward Gate 17. Clutched tightly in her hand was the boarding pass she'd bought with every penny saved from part-time work at the bookstore. She couldn't afford to miss this interview. Not today. Her dream of becoming a teacher was just one flight away. Suddenly, a small, trembling voice pierced through the noise. "Miss, can you help me? My dad's gone." Emma stopped. Her heart jolted as if tugged by an invisible string. A little girl, about 6 years old, stood lost in the vast terminal. A pink bunny backpack nearly swallowed her tiny frame. Her eyes were swollen, shimmering with unshed tears. People walked by. No one stopped, not a single person. A voice echoed in Emma's mind. "You can't miss this flight." But another spoke louder. "She needs you." Emma stepped forward. She knelt to the girl's eye level. "Don't be afraid," she said, gently taking the child's hand. "I'll help you find your dad." The small hand in Emma's was cold and trembling. She held on tighter, as if she could pass safety and warmth through her fingers. "What's your name?" "Lily," the girl murmured, almost a whisper. "We were getting chocolate and I went to see the big plane through the window. When I came back, my dad was gone." Emma scanned the terminal. The flight board blinked red over her gate. Last call, Chicago. She could still make it if she ran, but her feet refused to move. Instead, Emma knelt again, locking eyes with those tear-brimmed brown eyes. "We're gonna find your dad. Do you remember where the chocolate shop was?" Lily nodded. They began weaving through the crowd. Lily led like a tiny detective while Emma's eyes darted from face to face. They spoke to security guards, visited the information desk, and crossed 3 terminals. 30 minutes felt like an eternity. Lily began chatting about her stuffed rabbit, Mr. Nibbles, poking out of her backpack. Her voice had lightened. But Emma's heart grew heavier. Her flight had long departed. Suddenly a voice sliced through the crowd. "Lele." A tall man, disheveled, with wild hair and a wrinkled shirt, ran toward them. His tie was askew, his face etched with fear and panic. Lily let go of Emma's hand and launched into his arms. "She's everything to me," he whispered, clutching his daughter tightly. "I was going out of my mind looking for her." Emma stepped back, ready to fade into the crowd. But the man turned, locking his emerald gaze with hers. "You were with her?" It wasn't a question, it was recognition. "Thank you, I'm Daniel Morgan." "A thank you isn't nearly enough," Daniel said, as the 3 of them sat at a small table in the airport cafe. Steam curled gently from the cups of hot chocolate like a warm embrace. Lily held hers with both hands, pressing it against her cheek. Her dimples peeked out as she smiled up at Emma. "I promised to share mine with you," Lily whispered, "because you look like a princess." Emma chuckled. But inside, something unexpected stirred. Warmth, familiarity, something profoundly real. She glanced at Daniel, the man watching his daughter like she might vanish if he blinked. "I can't explain the fear I felt," Daniel said quietly. "I lost my wife 2 years ago. Since then, Lily has been my whole world." Emma nodded, listening without interruption. Daniel's expression softened, not the gaze of a powerful man, but of a father, uncertain yet holding on to hope. "Your ticket." Lily pointed to the slightly crumpled slip of paper on the table. Emma offered a soft smile, tinged with sadness. "It cost me 3 months of bookstore shifts, and it was my flight to a teaching interview." Daniel's eyes widened. "You missed it to help my daughter?" "It's okay," Emma replied quickly. "Maybe it wasn't meant to be." He looked at her. "Longer than necessary." "Let me repay you." "No need," Emma shook her head. "I didn't help Lily expecting anything back." In that moment, their eyes met not as strangers, but something gentler, more familiar. Lily looked up, eyes shining. "Miss Emma, can you finish the princess story tomorrow?" Emma was about to politely decline, but then she saw Lily's eyes watching her, Gentle, not pleading, but quietly inviting. Not everyone gets welcomed into a child's world, and when that door opens, it's hard to walk away. "All right," Emma smiled. "I'll finish the princess story, but only if there's more chocolate." That night, Emma sat by the window of her boarding room, the lights of the city blinking far below. Her suitcase was still packed. Her heart, not so much. She missed the interview, but somehow, it didn't feel like failure. A few days later, just as Emma was starting to settle into the quiet aftermath of a missed chance, a black Mercedes pulled quietly in front of the modest boarding house where Emma was staying. The driver, polite and precise, simply said, "Mr. Morgan would like to invite you for lunch. Lily's been asking for you all morning." Emma was about to decline, but Lily's beaming smile from yesterday replayed in her mind. She nodded. As the car drove through the gates of the Morgan estate, Emma's breath caught. The house looked like it had been plucked from an architecture magazine. Light stone walls, towering windows reflecting the crisp spring sky. She stepped out feeling like she'd entered a world that didn't quite belong to her. Too pristine, too far from her own. "It's Emma." Lily bounded down the front steps, throwing her arms around her. "She's been talking about you non-stop," Daniel said with a smile as he followed. Lunch was served in a sun-dappled garden. The conversation soon led them into the library, where Emma stopped in her tracks. The walls stretched sky-high, lined with books from floor to ceiling. A dark wood spiral staircase wound along the shelves. Golden sunlight poured in through a tall window, painting warm patterns across the polished floors. Claire, my wife, used to say that every book was a world waiting to be discovered, Daniel said softly. She passed from cancer. Since then, I've tried to keep this place for Lily. Emma stood still, her hand brushing over leather-bound spines. "You've done beautifully," she whispered. Lily rushed over, grabbing Emma's hand. "I think you're the library princess, just like Mommy Claire used to be." The three of them sat together on the rug. Lily handed Emma a fairy tale book. "You read it, like Mommy Claire used to read to me." Emma's voice flowed softly, the words like a gentle stream. Daniel watched them, unmoving. In his gaze, for the first time in a long time, there was not just memory, but a glimpse of something more, a future. "You mentioned that interview. Where was it again?" Daniel asked softly as they paused by a tall antique shelf. "Hawthorne Academy," Emma replied, still caressing the spine of an old book. "I prepared so hard, but they didn't think I was the right fit." Daniel smiled faintly. "I invest in Hawthorne. I'm one of their major benefactors." Emma turned to him, stunned. "You fund them?" He nodded, gaze lingering on a portrait of Claire. "I've never stepped into hiring matters, but Emma, if there's anyone who can show them what true teaching looks like, it's you. Pitch your vision. I'll make sure they listen." A week later, Emma walked into Hawthorne Academy's boardroom with a portfolio in her hands and her heartbeat pounding like a battle drum. She was no longer the timid girl from the airport. Before 6 people, among them Theodore Wells, the headmaster who once dismissed her, Emma presented a teaching proposal that blended critical thinking, technology, and empathy. Children need more than grades. They need to know how to question, how to feel, how to grow. A silver-haired woman adjusted her glasses, quite unconventional. Emma raised her head. So is life. Outside, rain had started falling, its rhythm tapping gently on the window like Emma's racing pulse. After the meeting, she stepped into the garden, now damp with drizzle. Daniel was waiting under an umbrella. "You did great," he said gently. "I'm not sure," Emma shook her head. "But I don't regret it." Daniel looked at her, longer than necessary. "I think Claire would have liked you." Emma looked up, rain soaking her hair, but she didn't care. "You don't have to say that. I'm not saying it because I have to. I'm saying it because it's true." In a heartbeat, their eyes locked. A storm had begun. Quietly, in their hearts. Rain began to fall softly as Lily drifted into sleep, curled beneath her thin blanket, still clutching Mr. Nibbles. Emma stepped out into the garden behind the estate, where raindrops tapped gently against rain-soaked roses. She tilted her head upward, inhaling the scent of earth, grass, and something shifting quietly inside her. Footsteps echoed behind her. "You're not afraid of the rain?" Daniel's voice was soft, almost a whisper. Emma turned. He stood there, sleeves rolled, hair dampening already. She smiled faintly. "No, sometimes the rain helps you breathe." They stood together beneath the cherry tree, water dripping between them, as though the whole world had slowed to listen. "I locked myself away," Daniel said, "for Claire, for Lily, 'cause I didn't believe I could love again." Emma stayed silent. Her heart pounded, not from fear, but understanding. "For so long, I thought I had to guard what was left of me. Then you showed up, unexpectedly, quietly, and reminded me what warmth feels like. You didn't fix the silence. You made it sing." She drew a shaky breath. "I'm scared too. Scared this feels too early, too beautiful to be real." Daniel stepped closer, and the space between them vanished. "Maybe. Sometimes the truest things come at the wrong time, but that doesn't make them any less real." He reached out, brushing her cheek. Rain, or was it tears, no longer made a difference. And when their lips met, soft trembling, then igniting, the sky cracked open in witness. The rain didn't stop them. It only made everything clearer. The photos spread like wildfire. Daniel and Emma under the cherry tree in the garden, eyes locked in what should have been a private moment. But in the age of social media, nothing truly stays private. A blurry but telling image surfaced on a Hawthorne Academy parent forum. Within 24 hours, it had swept through community groups, followed by a storm of judgment. New teacher getting too close to the school's biggest donor? A questionable relationship, unprofessional, unethical. What kind of example is the school setting? Emma read every word, her hands cold and trembling. She curled up on the edge of her couch, the phone buzzing endlessly. Some messages from concerned friends, others dripping with cruel assumptions. Daniel arrived late that night. His face was taut, but his gaze remained unwavering. "Principal Walton wants to meet with us first thing tomorrow," he said. Emma nodded silently. "And," he paused, voice heavier, "my mother knows." She turned. "Mrs. Eleanor?" Daniel nodded. "She called, blunt as ever. She wants to meet you tonight." The Morgan estate was unusually quiet when Emma arrived. Eleanor Morgan sat upright in the grand living room, her gaze sharp, her voice calm but cutting. "Who do you think you are? A contract teacher, slipping into my sons' and granddaughters' lives like this is some kind of fairy tale." Emma clenched her hands. "I never intended to take anyone's place. I only did what was right. Stayed with a lost child in an airport, and in return you got..." "What?" Eleanor raised a brow. A small voice spoke from the doorway. "You got me." Lily stood there, clutching Mr. Nibbles. "Miss Emma is kind. She makes Dad smile, tells me stories, and never asks for anything. Grandma, why is that wrong?" Eleanor turned away. Her shoulders trembled, just slightly. No one spoke. After a long pause, she stood and faced Emma. "I've guarded this house like a museum of memories. Maybe I was afraid to let anyone else in." But then Lily laughed again, and I couldn't ignore what that meant. "I judged you unfairly. That was my mistake." A week later, Daniel sent Emma a message with only one line. "Meet me where it all began." When Emma walked into the old terminal, her heart raced, not with fear, but with the certainty that this moment would change everything. Lily was the first to run to her, her lavender dress sparkling under the airport lights. "Miss Emma," she squealed, wrapping her arms around her. "Do you remember? This is where I found you." Emma laughed through her tears. I remember, Lily. I'll never forget. Daniel approached, dressed in a gray suit, his gaze soft but full of resolve. You remember when you knelt down and took her hand? You didn't know that day you also took mine. He knelt, right on the spot where Emma had knelt to comfort Lily a year ago. From his pocket, Lily pulled out a small velvet box and handed it to her father. Daniel opened it. Inside was a sapphire ring surrounded by tiny diamonds shaped like a constellation. Emma Rivera, he said, voice steady and warm, you walked into our lives without knocking, without asking for anything. You gave love freely and made both me and Lily remember how to love again. He looked up, his gaze carving into her soul. Emma Rivera, will you walk beside me, not just through sunny days, but through every storm that may come? Because we already know the rain doesn't scare us. Emma choked on emotion, tears falling like the rain that had once brought them together. She looked at Lily, who nodded eagerly. She smiled through her tears. Yes, with all my heart, yes. Morning sunlight filtered through the kitchen window of the Morgan house, spilling soft gold across the table. The scent of cinnamon waffles filled the air, where Emma stood at the stove and Lily was busy dusting powdered sugar over star-shaped pancakes. You're doing it wrong, Lily frowned. We need chocolate chips, too. Emma laughed, adjusting the tiny apron tied around Lily's waist. Yes, chef. Behind them, Daniel leaned against the doorframe, holding his coffee, watching the scene like it was a dream he didn't want to wake from. You know, Emma said quietly, turning back, happiness doesn't come like fireworks. It comes like this. With a child's laughter and flower in your hair. Daniel stepped forward and kissed her forehead. I know, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. The doorbell rang. It was Eleanor Morgan. She stood holding a small basket of flowers. I thought a new family's first day should have something traditional. Emma took the flowers, looked at her, and smiled. No more fear, no more distance. Lily ran over, grabbing both their hands. Grandma and Mommy, let's plant flowers in the garden. And just like that, a family was being rebuilt, not through perfection, but through love, watered day by day.